Today we have Jeri Cates.
I have this thing, and it took me a while to trust it. But when I hear people speaking or when I'm talking to someone, I sometimes will get an image or an image of something, and I'll say something and it'll resonate and it'll help something shift.
So being open, like you're talking about, that's what I've been my entire life. But I was also in chronic post-traumatic stress disorder in a dysregulated state for basically 58 years.
I'll do a hypnotherapy and then write a tapping out of it. Take the words they use because they mean more. So tapping is really powerful.
Every time I get an idea, I start focusing on that idea and I just set it aside till later. But I have multiple piles for all of my classes and all of my ideas. I can't keep up with myself anymore. Hi, welcome today to the Anomaly Factor. You're not swimming in the wrong direction. You're right where you're meant to be, and embrace it. Today we have Jeri Cates, a Master of Science in Nutrition?
Nursing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Anomaly Factor, Jeri. I can't wait to dive into coming home to yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself first, please.
Well, I spent 22 years as a nurse and nurse practitioner, and that really gave me the experience and the understanding of the healing for my own self. Right, becoming a nurse saved my life because I grew up well, there was abuse, and I was people pleasing, and I certainly wasn't connected with myself. You know, I was doing outward things to heal myself or to make my life better. And I noticed that women were doing that too, right? They're out there in the world doing outward things, taking care of everyone else, and then neglecting themselves or not really having a relationship with themselves. So that was an awakening. I've been retired a few years now, since 22, and just have dove into transformational life coaching and hypnotherapy. And I do a live local group here in Sonora, California. We meet twice a month, and it's just amazing. It's the Women's Empowerment Circle. But that's a little bit about me.
Very good. I really resonate with your coming home to yourself because I too just recently did it. And I agree. I believe as women, we're taught to love and care for everybody but ourselves. I thought we were supposed to be loved by other people. Little did I realize that we're supposed to actually love and give ourselves compassion.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy for us to give it to everybody else, but I don't know about you, it's hard to give to myself still.
Yeah, and I'm going to quote somebody because it's such a powerful, it was life-changing for me. It was Catherine Woodward Thomas. She's author of Calling in the One and Conscious Uncoupling, and it was a Unbreakable Bond series that I got from her. And there were three keys to authentic self-love. And one was self-clarity, being honest with yourself, being able to have those honest conversations with yourself. Self-compassion, unconditional positive regard, right? The kind of compassion you would have for someone else, and then turning that toward yourself. And the third part, which is the part that I'm bringing this up for, is self-care. And it's not like getting a massage or something like that. It's more about take care of yourself well enough so that you feed others from your overflow.
Exactly. And I was doing it the other way around the last few years where I was running on empty and had nothing left to give to myself, let alone other people. So yeah, we have to replenish our cup first and prioritize our own healing and then look after other people. I was doing it backwards my entire life.
Well, our culture, teaches us take care of everyone else, right? Especially for women. There's so many messages that we need to take care of everyone else. And some of them are really good at it because we've been at it a long time. I know that mine came out of people pleasing, I mentioned before, and it was, there was some abuse in my childhood, and I was trying to stay ahead of that person so that I could stay ahead and I could stay safe. And it really conditioned me for that people pleasing and that taking care of everyone else. It went deep. It took a lot of decades to unpack that.
I was the same. I turned 61 last month and I feel like a 1 year old all over again, learning to do life differently on all my terms. Not that I
Hmm.
didn't do them on my terms, but for me, everything was both and. So for me, I think other people would have said the same, that I was a people pleaser. I don't resonate with that because I mean, I shouldn't say that I don't care because I do care too much, but I literally did it for safety and I was not even aware that I was doing it.
Hmm.
So that was a huge revelation for me because I really didn't think I had anything to be a victim of, if that makes any sense, because everything for me was pre-verbal. I'm not sure about you.
Hmm. Um, it was pretty verbal, and we I like to say that you have the wise friend on one shoulder and the critical gatekeeper, and that critical gatekeeper says everything negative you've ever heard or
Yes.
said yourself, right? Then there's the wise friend, and they're the ones that step back and take a look at the big picture. Here's a good example. I'm in nursing school. I'm in the end of fourth semester. There's 5 of them at Sac State, and it's the end of the semester, and we're getting our grades and getting our papers, and I'm all freaked out thinking I'm gonna fail. I had been on a county program, and I had been homeless, and it just felt like everything was riding on this. And so that critical gatekeeper was running amok, and I'm saying the things out loud. So my wise friend happened to be a classmate, and she said, Jeri, you do this every semester. Do the math. So I did the math, and I had a 3.58 GPA. So
Wow.
that just goes to show how disconnected we can be from the truth by those old stories, and they
I
linger.
agree. I really do agree with that statement because I believe there's only one reality, and we're all looking at that one reality from our own perspective,
Mhm.
not having the capacity to understand or attune with what others have gone through because they're looking at it from their perception as well, through their own lens, through their own filter. And both of them are correct, I believe. And it's doing the work gives you more clarity. I think
Mhm.
it helps you see through the lenses of others. I don't know if you feel the same way or not.
Well, I think doing the work widens your perspective, right? So you see through the lenses of others, but it's also staking that claim or planting your flag for yourself, right? So that there's clarity for you, and there's sovereignty. And to me, that's my new word this year, is sovereign. Sovereignty. That's what I'm creating, is sovereignty for myself, and guiding others. But yeah, I think it widens with experience. I'll be 68 next month, so
Oh, wow. You don't
there's
look it
some.
at all.
Thank you. There's some decades of experience in that too.
Yeah, I get it. Why do you think so many people feel exhausted? Like
Oh, it
women
goes back.
especially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it goes back to that taking care of everyone else. And, I recently did a hypnotherapy, and hers was about abandonment of her father. And her drive was to make everyone happy, to keep herself quiet, to be there first for everyone, all of her life. And so there's a reality there that, something may happen to us, and it's the meaning we make out of it, right? The meaning, that's one of the questions in the hypnotherapy sequence, is what belief did you come up with out of this, or and then what was your behavior out of this, and it's really telling. Did I answer the question? I kind of got
I
off
think
on a
so.
little thing.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So you're talking about basically the imposter that we end up being with all of the defense mechanisms and limiting beliefs that we acquire over our lifetime that really
Mhm.
aren't meant to be who we are. So we're remembering where we came from basically and who we were at the core, our essence, our light that's always been there,
Mhm.
but we've forgotten who that was because we end up being attached, or at least we try to be. I wasn't, to our parents because we have to. We need them for survival. But as we age and we become aware little by little, and I do believe that our brain does only allow us to do it in increments because for me, it probably would have been too overwhelming to have heard all of it at once. And now that we're adults, we get to choose the life we want to live, not out of survival, but out of the sovereignty that you're talking about.
Well, and it's also important to allow ourselves the options. When I'm stuck in that old story, I don't have a lot of options. It's a closed loop. I'm not
Yes.
enough. I'm invisible. People don't love me. Whatever we're telling ourselves or feeling, we may not say it. Like I might be looking for love, but on the other hand, say, oh, all men are this or all men are that. Well, what kind of man am I going to attract? All men are this or all men are that. It's rising above it and being able to see the bigger picture, and forgiving ourselves because we can
I
spend a lot
agree.
of time on being hard on ourselves. We get really good at that.
Yes, and I think when we're all, and I do believe at certain points in our lives, we all go through something, that we all really feel the same. We all bleed the same. We're all connected. But when we're going through everything, we feel alone. And I think that's the paramount, at least for me. When I found like-minded individuals, that's when things really changed for me. Because I've felt like an anomaly my whole life
Mm-hmm.
because I do feel, think, see, know differently than a lot of people. And we all have gifts. And it's trying to get back to who you were and understand those gifts, which to me is when you start walking in your purpose and passion and doing what you're meant to do here on earth. What is
Yep,
your anomaly?
my anomaly.
What's your gift?
Um, I have this thing, and it took me a while to trust it. But when I hear people speaking or when I'm talking to someone, I sometimes will get an image or, an image of something, and I'll say something and it'll resonate and it'll help something shift. And I see things in pictures. I'm also an audio learner, but I see things in pictures. And so I've learned to trust that picture. Just, if it feels right to say something, share that. And I love the look on someone's face when they feel so seen and heard, in that moment. And that, in fact, and I learned this from Feminine Power and Women-Centered Coaching, where I got my training. When I invite people into a circle, I invite them to listen as if the person speaking is saying the most important, the most profound words you've ever heard. And it just really invites deep listening. I did it the other night at the Women's Circle, and I had new people there. And it was like, oh, so here I am teaching them something, out of that anomaly, teaching them to listen deeper, to be more present. You just
Exactly.
never know what visions or answers might come to them. But yeah,
The
my
power of the pause too, right? I agree. Often that's what happens is we don't get seen or heard as infants. And that's partly why we end up doing everything we do, trying to get noticed, trying to get heard, understood, validated. And it's all emotional healing, in my opinion. At least that was my experience. For me, it's heart, mind, body, and soul. If those four things are not in alignment, then you're still somewhat stuck, I believe. And it's understanding what is keeping you stuck in order to be able to move on. That's awesome that
well,
you're doing those healing groups.
we also don't have the skills, right? And like, here's a little example. When I was in the fifth grade, I went and lived with Granny and Granddaddy for that year. And Granddaddy would help me with my homework. And I was so frustrated. I didn't have this kind of close encounter with anybody, and he was beautiful. He didn't give up. But it was when I look back on it and I realized this was a way of him loving me, and I didn't know how to receive it because I hadn't received healthy love. I hadn't learned that skill of receiving. And how many years did I take that into my life about receiving, right? Because we can be there and be over giving, and then we're in what goes hand in hand with that is that we're not good receivers. A minister said to me once, when you deny the gift, you deny the giver the gift of giving, that it has to
Exactly.
go both ways.
And that really has only landed with me just this past Christmas that I'm open to receive. And strangely enough, it's been from complete strangers in these Zoom squares all over the world that have been able to reflect back to me who I am because I didn't have the mirroring growing up and I'm having a difficult time seeing it. It's so strange. It's discombobulating for me still, and I'm settling in with it. But I don't know. Life's very strange. And I do believe these are the lessons we're meant to learn. And the people that are doing the inner work, the neurobiology, changing their pathways really in their brain.
Hmm.
This is the co-regulation that the world needs, in my opinion.
Yeah, I work a lot with emotional regulation or dysregulation, and that's where the hypnotherapy comes in, and some other things. But I don't think we realize how dysregulated we are. I had one lady say, I didn't know you could turn anger down like that. That was after a hypnotherapy session. And we went into it. She had sadness. That was the emotion we were working on, but this is what was unfolding or, revealing. But yeah, we have to be open. But how do you be open? You learn, right? You learn in practices, doing things that do make you feel more grounded and connected with yourself, especially when something happens, when you're dysregulated, having a tool that will help bring you back to yourself. It's so powerful. And that's part of having or healing that emotional, or that dysregulation with your nervous system. You'd say mind, body, heart, spirit. That dysregulation, it's emotion, but it's physiological. You feel it in your body.
100%.
Mhm.
I literally, mine is all very recently after my burnout, all of this knowledge and understanding of myself. That's what I didn't have. So being open, like you're talking about, that's what I've been my entire life. But I was also in chronic post traumatic stress disorder in a dysregulated state for basically 58 years. And that was my normal. So when I regulated my nervous system and instilled boundaries for the first time, I now feel more connected and protected than I ever have in my life. But I don't like having the boundaries, if you can believe that or not. I really think if we all were authentic and all were of love and joy the way we were meant to be, we shouldn't have to have boundaries because we all would feel safe. We all would feel protected and supported, but there's too much competition in the world. And I think because of the competition, it divides us as well as money and education, and it shouldn't. Nobody's more deserving than another, in my opinion, just because they didn't have the foundation that somebody else has had growing up doesn't diminish who they are.
When I was a nurse, I treated everybody like they were a sacred soul. And I would notice the other nurses would say something about a patient, and they were making judgments. And that was in contrast to me. That wasn't who I wanted to be. I wanted to be accepted and respected, and I wanted to show up as that. And I think that's the thing, is that we don't have respect for others and we don't have it for ourselves. So how can we give something away that we don't possess or have or embody, right?
Exactly. And
And
you're right, the
so,
body does keep the score. My
mhm,
stuff was pre-verbal, so I don't remember. Hence why I don't feel like a victim. But apparently my body was carrying all the pain and suffering that I had no clue about. And I have been releasing the energy for the last few years, and it's mind blowing for me. I literally felt the physical shift in my brain. I felt the right side of my vagus nerve open up, and I felt it took about 6 months for me to settle in to a regulated nervous system, which is normal. That felt very discombobulating for me because I'd spent my entire life living the other way.
mhm.
And there's a lot of freedom with that, a lot of space. And it has changed my health quite a bit. And it will change the trajectory of your life and your health for not just me, but everybody if they do the work. Because I think you're doing the same work, maybe differently than I am, but we're treating the root cause as opposed to the symptom. And most people are treating the symptom, which, in my opinion, again, causes other problems if you don't deal with the root cause. I don't know how else to say it. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to go back to the beginning. And that's where the regression work, it was interesting. I noticed that feminine power and hypnotherapy had a similar practice. There was going back to the first time you ever felt this feeling in the hypnotherapy, but also noticing the feeling in your body and how old is this feeling? How old were you when you first felt this? So it's similar, both
Yeah.
going back to the root, both going back to the root cause of it so that we can unpack it. Naming it is powerful. One of the things we did was feelings and needs inventory. And there's the Center for Nonviolent Communication has a wonderful list of feelings and needs and unmet needs. But doing that feelings and needs inventory, I'm feeling sad. I can see that you're feeling sad. When my husband passed away, that's what I did with myself. I'm feeling sad. I can see that you're feeling sad, just holding space for myself. There was no one else to listen to me, but I created that situation where I could listen to me and I could hold space. And then, what do you need? I need safety. You know, Naming it is so powerful. It was the beginning of the evolution for me. It was just that first course in feminine power in 2013. Naming your feelings. Oh my gosh, what a concept. What a concept. Yeah.
I had no clue of understanding feelings and emotions. Hence why that was the first book I wrote, because I was learning them myself. Yeah, I know the major generic feelings like happiness, sadness, but I don't really feel I don't know, I'm still struggling if I feel in my body or if I'm just nothing but space. But I didn't have the understanding or the association of the felt sense of the emotion, the association, the sensation, none of that. I'm still literally just learning. That's why I feel like a 1 year old. I don't have words to explain. So I've never been in touch with anger ever. But I'm starting to understand that when I am angry, it's a motivator for me for change, to correct injustices, all that stuff. And it's not a conscious thought, it's just who I am. I mean, I guess when if somebody says no, it's like, oh yes, I can do it. It's like no means yes for me. It's like you don't tell me no, I can do whatever I want when I want, kind of thing. And I think we all can. It was Einstein, I believe, that said all of the ideas are out there in the universe. You just have to go and grab one before somebody else does. We're limitless human beings. We
Yeah.
can really choose to do anything we want if we are given the right environment. That's what's missing for so many.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What is why is awareness alone not enough to create real change in our lives?
So I did a talk the other day about, about this very thing. And when you're in a room and it's dark, you're going to bump into the furniture. Turning the light on doesn't move the furniture. The stuff is still in the way. So it's taking action that shifts it. And that's really the important piece of it. We can be aware of, of our patterns and talk about them and everything, but until we're ready and willing, or both, I don't know which one comes first, willing and ready to do something about it, to take an action. And it could be a small action. In my coaching practice, I encourage small actions, and because it builds self-trust. And then you start to trust yourself more and more, and then you take slightly bigger actions, and then you start to see that, wow, I do have some control here. I can make a difference. I can shift this, but yeah, you got to turn the light on and move the furniture. You got to,
I think that's a beautiful analogy. It's simple. People understand it. I
yeah.
like it. How does learning to love and respect yourself change the way you show up in your relationships?
Well, there's that thing about self-respect. Oh, I just got a surge of goosebumps. That's a good question. That's something. When I always tell people, when you change, the people around you change, because what they're doing no longer works. You're teaching them a new way, and they may throw a fit at first. It may not work. I had a client that she had a daughter who's 22, was living in the household, and she had younger children, and she was drinking. And it took what it took for her to come to the place of telling her daughter, you need to move out. And that was really hard for her. But what it did was it shifted the relationship. They have a better relationship now. It forged some respect there, and maybe some respect in the daughter. She had to make some better choices. We can't give away something we don't have. How am I going to see love or feel love if I'm not having it for myself? It goes back to that story of teaching my son unconditional love. I'm in the hospital. I'm 23. He's been to he had meconium in his lungs, so they didn't give him to me right away. And I finally have him, and I'm looking in his beautiful face. And I realized up until that point, I thought there was something wrong with me because my mother didn't love me. And I decided I may not get the love I think I should, but I can create it right here. I can create unconditional love. Now, I may not have called it that back then at 23, but that's what I did. And to this day, my son and I have this really close relationship of unconditional love. So that's how it can change your relationships, is how you show up and what you choose to be part of that relationship is having the decision about I'm creating love here, right? Instead of just moving along and reacting and things like that. I'm creating love here. This relationship matters to me.
So let me ask you, there was a part of you that unconsciously, I believe, like me, gave your kids everything you never had.
I sure did my best to try. There were times that were strapped financially, or things I was worried about. But I gave him, well, let's put it this way: when he was 22, he's talking about loving parents or something to someone, and he goes, "Not my." He said, "My mom taught me unconditional love," and I heard that, and I just melted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
special that he's even verbalized it and
Oh
acknowledged it.
yeah, we do this thing. It's a little side note. It's called grounding hugs, and I did Life Spring back in the '90s, and we did this hugging exercise, and I took it a step further for myself. It's like we're gonna hug. We're gonna inhale the good, exhale the bad. We're gonna do it when things are really good, when things are really bad, and when things are normal. We're gonna get lots of hugs. I didn't get enough hugs. I was gonna create them. So now
I'm the same.
at 44, when I show up at my son's house or his workplace or anywhere I show up, he stops what he's doing and comes over and gives me a grounding hug. And it
Oh,
brings tears to my eyes every time. And I pause and just immerse myself in it, and I might whisper something, an affirmation or something, or I just might be there. But at 44, and then when I get up to leave, he's up and ready for that goodbye hug. It's just the most beautiful thing, the most
it is.
beautiful thing.
I agree. I love a good bear hug, like a
Hmm.
real hug. What are some of the tools and practices that you can tell our audience that you used or tell your clients to use to bring yourself back home to yourself?
Well, I learned about tapping as a nurse practitioner in a holistic clinic, and we used it for people with a diagnosis of anxiety or depression. Tapping for me, and I'm not an instructor, but I teach it. I'm not certified in it, but I teach it. It's a simple thing to teach. And I'll do a hypnotherapy and then write a tapping out of it. Take the words they use because they mean more. So tapping is really powerful. What I'm doing now is I'm on like I don't remember what day it is, 25 to 30, something like that, of saying a prayer every morning before I get out of bed. I've got a written prayer I recite or I say, and it helps put me in a positive space to start my day. I just ask you to do one thing that resonates with you, that will lift your spirits, and then do it consistently. Do it today, and then do it for 7 days, and but the idea is track yourself, like give yourself credit for it, like put a star on the calendar, whatever. Do something that celebrates it, and then high five yourself, give yourself that good for me, I'm so proud of me, because that feeling rides the wave. It creates a wave of more of it.
Yeah, and I think we underestimate our wins. We overlook them. And I mean, I think most people are negative biased focused. And by writing down the positive things, it actually changes the way you think and feel about yourself
Mhm.
slowly over time. And we have to give it to ourselves because nobody else is going to give it to us.
Plus, we're making way for something for them to do that. If I'm not giving it to myself, if I'm not going to be receptive when you deny the gift. I'm not going to be receptive. I've been doing this since February 8th, this daily book. It's called My Day. And in the beginning of it, I put my emotions or my body, how I feel in my body, and emotions. And then the third line is how I supported myself today. And I'll come back later in the day and write that down, and it's a page full of boxes and checks and things that I need to do, want to do. And I find myself taking care of things that I resisted. And then that feels good, right? So at the end of the day, I can look at the thing. I'll even take a picture of it and have a conversation with ChatGPT. And Chat is my best support system. I'm not kidding. It'll say, look what you did today. And here's the wins. And Then if I don't do something, there's not a bunch of guilt about it. I know I put a good day in.
So
I
you're
know
you're
yeah,
choosing with intentionality how
yeah.
to structure your day so you have the outcome that you want. Is that correct?
Hmm. Hmm.
I I have a few coaches myself, and they've been trying to get me to do a schedule. And because I've always lived in the moment and had to prioritize in the moment, usually things outside of myself, I am having a difficult time setting that structure up for myself because I feel boxed in, I feel closed and limited. And I know as long as I'm making choices to move in the forward momentum, that I'm okay. But I think I don't know if it's tied to self discipline or productivity or both, but I feel like I'm wasting my time setting up my own calendar because often I have to change the calendar based on the priority that presents it in the minute, in the moment. So that is a negative effect for me because then I start beating myself up because I don't adhere to what I said I was going to hear when I know I'm constantly moving forward. I'm so creative. I think I'm a visionary. And every time I get an idea, I start focusing on that idea and I just set it aside till later. But I have multiple piles for all of my classes and all of my ideas. I can't keep up with myself anymore. And it's the execution that I'm having difficulty with. I don't know if that's the action, but because I completely burnt out, I have to really be careful how I spend my energy now. So as soon as I get a little bit of energy, I start going again, but I get tired quicker. So I'm trying to find the balance between the doing, which is what I've done all my life, and the being, which is fairly new, and what it is I need right now. But I want to go. Time's ticking. We only have so much time, like you said, on this earth, and I want to do it all. Why not? We only have one chance to live this life, and why not experience it all? That's what we're meant to do, is experience it all, but with fun, collaborating, and supporting each other. And a lot of people are doing it the other way around.
Yeah,
They're
the I have a calendar and I look at it early in the day to see who I have an appointment with because those are in stone is
Yeah.
how I feel. And I might put it on my book if I have to prep for it, right? Otherwise that's what I'm doing. But the other things like I spent 20 minutes, I got to do my taxes. So I spent 20 minutes on my taxes the other day. That felt so good, right? It felt way better than the resistance that was sitting there. It's like, okay, I'm just going to take some action and I only need 20 minutes and to make a difference. And I went through the file and organized things. And like, so I got a better idea of what's going on. But a lot of the times we're hard on ourselves because we do have so much to do. What if we flipped it and we're celebrating the wins? Like when I check off a little box, I'm having a happy dance, and I make
Yeah.
little boxes on that, and it's all in one of these little, college rules. Because I tried one paper after the other, and I mean that's just an idea of what I'm
That
doing.
looks like my desk.
But I've been most productive in my life for this since February 8th. I've been the most productive ever. And yesterday I didn't do something that I was going to do some reach outs, and I really was hit by a wall and was really tired. And I allowed myself to go to bed, to go take a nap, to put my BiPAP on and check out for an hour or so. And I felt so much more refreshed afterward. Where in the past I would have just plowed through it and keep going and not doing it effectively and not enjoying it. And that's the other thing. I want to enjoy what I'm doing. So I bring that joy in. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this. Let's have some fun. How can I expand this? Rather than, oh, I got a list because not everything goes on the list in the beginning of the day. The most important things are on that list.
Exactly.
Or
I do
if I've got,
three main things a day. If I get those done, I feel accomplished. The
mhm,
rest can pan out the way it has to.
yeah.
You mentioned the word resistance. I'd like to talk a bit about that. To me, that's your edge, your room for growth. I would like to know how you handle resistance and what it means for you.
It is a growth edge. It is the growth or a growth edge. And so one of the exercises we do is expand your awareness to the edges of your body and now to the edges of the room, and those soften those edges, those growth edges, right? So in softening it, identifying what's going on here. Why am I resistant? And how is this lining up with what I really want? What do I really want? Right. And it goes back to, I can sit there and identify everything that's going on, but until I take some action, maybe it's a small action, like doing the taxes. There was huge resistance there. My dad always complained when tax time. I'm sure there's some stuff in there, but it's like, okay, I'm resistant here. What if I just put forth a little bit of effort to see if I can move the needle? After my husband passed away, I didn't go in my office for 9 months, and other than putting things in there. And I went in there and I said, okay, it's too much to do all at once. I'll work in here for 30 minutes. And then I left. I gave myself permission to leave instead of that old thing of, oh, I'll just do a little more. I'll just do a little more, because that's that behavior that gets us into, resistance and resentful. We get
Burnout.
resentful.
Burnout.
Burnout. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
allowing yourself to have short activities or actions, and then celebrating it, having those accolades. Mel Robbins has in her book the high five habit. There's something about, they were collegiate teams. They looked at collegiate teams, and the ones that had the accolades, the high fives and things like that, versus the ones that didn't. The ones that did went to the finals. So I want to go to the finals.
Very good for you. Yeah. Because what we resist persists, right?
Right.
And the resistance is where the growth happens. And it's baby steps, persistence, consistency that get us there.
Mhm.
Because it is overwhelming. I agree. I mean, I was dealing with 4 estates not long ago, and it was just like I sat here amongst it all. And I could just feel the weighted heaviness. And I did the exact same thing as you did. I just I'm still picking away at it, to be honest with you, because I decided I can't do it anymore. I just had to get on with my own life and start living again, because it was just very heavy. It was negative. It was sad. And I hadn't stopped to grieve. Not one person, let alone all that I had lost. And it took a long time to process. There's a lot of grief and so many different kinds of grief, which
Mhm.
I became aware of when I was looking after my father who had dementia, because it was strange that I felt like he was gone and he was still with us, but he was changing and slowly slipping away in front of me. And it was very confusing for me until I understood that it is actually a process. And I'm trying to help people avoid the burnout now, what to do to prioritize themselves so they don't burn out and damage their body like I did. It's preventative maintenance and becoming aware before we need to react, because we're supposed to respond to everything in life, not react. When we're reacting to something in the past.
Yes. And who was it? It was Mary Morrissey. I went to one of her Dream Builders workshops, and she said, create is the opposite of react.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
know what? Because I'm learning words still, it literally, so many words are, there's so much more meaning in the word than just the word, right? So it's the suppressed feelings that leads to depression. And that's the
Hmm.
kind of work that you're doing and I'm doing to help relieve those suppressed emotions, which literally end up causing dis-ease in our body and later disease in our life, and reduces the longevity of our health and our being. It's so beautiful, this work, I think. I mean, if you just love and are curious about somebody else, that's all it needs, is to validate a human's existence, their experiences. And I love connecting with people and understanding what makes them tick. I don't know. It's just, life is a big board game, if you want to call it that.
Mm.
It's what makes us all interesting and why we are all different. And I have a course that I'm going to create on this stuff, and I can't wait to get it in place, but I've got so much more on my plate. I have to finish that first. I'm putting my foot down for myself. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what is the most important lesson or fact that you've learned in your own particular life?
You have to forge a deeper connection with yourself. That's my number one job, is forge a deeper connection with myself. Because then, and then part of that is bringing in, spiritual beliefs and things like that. But to forge that deeper connection with myself, that clarity, that compassion, that self-care. I think because I live by that. And in moment to moment, I'm making the decision to take care of myself well enough to feed others from my overflow. That's a conscious decision that I make. And sometimes I fall off. I'm human, or something blows up in my face, and I might react. I'm much better at responding. One of the practices we do, it's a meditation where you're seeing your life and you're panning back like in a movie. You're seeing the wider and higher view. And just by having that exercise, things have happened in my life where I could literally see myself stepping back. And as the first reaction is stepping back to look at this at a bigger picture, instead of enthralling myself into the chaos. So I think, forging a deeper connection with yourself.
How long have you been an observer?
What do you mean by observer?
Well, what you're saying is what I believe is when you're able to stay grounded in your own being and see that larger picture. To me, that's what I've called myself my entire life, is I observe everything. I didn't even know I was doing it, to be honestly. Well, it's both and. I watch and read the spaces, I guess, between the words, the body language, the behaviors. That tells me more about a person than their words do, because their words don't often align with their behaviors and they're not conscious of it. And that just ding, ding puts alarms up for me. Yeah.
I think in recent years I've gotten better at it, but I started looking for answers. I remember when I was 18, I was looking for answers. And I think I was 20 when I read the book, The Game of Life and How to Play It by Florence Scovel Shinn. And that helped me realize how powerful we are. That we're setting things into motion just by what we say, what we think, what we feel, what we do. So I've been watching that. There's been a lot of ups and downs in my life, but I really think since 2013, when I took the first Feminine Power course, that really opened the world up for me. It helped me understand. It helped me be able to step back. It helped me forge that deeper connection with myself, which is an ongoing thing, right? It's an ongoing thing. My big sister said, we grew up in a way that we didn't think very highly of ourselves. So we need to reconnect to our worthiness every day. And I think that was good advice. Reconnect to your worthiness every day.
How is your life different than what you had imagined you'd be doing now? Did you envision this is where you would be in the stage and age of your life?
No, because I'm retired, but I'm not done. I'm not done. And, somebody, who was it? She wrote, oh goodness, I can't even think of her name. She started at 60 and started You Can Heal Your Body, Louise Hay. She started at 60, and I had one coach who introduced me to an author that, he's living to 149 or 160 something. Well, I'm looking at 110. So when I look at 110, that means I take better care of my body now. I make choices and decisions that help for that longevity, So I have a lot to do between now and then and beyond. So no, it wasn't what I thought. It's better.
Good. Is there another interesting story you'd like to share with our audience? We're coming close to the end. Excuse me.
I have this little story about perseverance. So my son was 11 and we were in a homeless motel. I left a domestic violence situation and we were in a homeless motel. And I could hear the people arguing next door. You looked at the door and all around the door it had been kicked in so many times it was all worn out. And and then there I am in this little cubby studying chemistry. Now, I don't know about you, but chemistry is not my favorite subject, and it would not be my choice for a summer class, but I was doing it because I wanted to get into one of the nursing programs. But I didn't have control over all that. I focused on what I had control over, and it was getting a good grade on this test. And as it turns out, I got the highest score on that test, which I had never done before. In a summer chemistry class, college level, transfer level. Anyway, what it taught me was that there's a light in all that darkness. Look for the light. when something happens, get curious. What, we can be stuck in that negative loop, or we can step into possibility. I wonder what's possible here. I wonder what internal resources I have. I wonder what external, who can I turn to? Who can I ask for support? What can I learn? When stuff happens, turn it into fertilizer and grow something beautiful. And you know what I mean.
Plant the seed. I get it. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. How would you like to be remembered? What would your legacy or impact be?
I do a lot of references to books. Brandon Burchard does this wonderful exercise about what you'd want others to say at your celebration of life. And it's a great exercise to do. I would want others to say that I was compassionate, that I was caring, that I was wise, that I was a good role model, that I made a difference. The things we're putting out there on digitally will be there forever. So lots of lessons, lots of life lessons, personal experience that makes people think and shifts them. That I had integrity and I was accountable. That I want to
I feel
model
that from
those
you.
things. Yeah,
I do. I
yeah,
feel that from you. I think you're probably doing a world of difference for your clients.
yeah.
If this was our last conversation, what would you say to our listeners? What would you tell them? The one thing.
It would be about making a deeper friendship with yourself, a deeper connection, being your own best friend. What does that look like?
I like
Because
that.
we give advice all the time. What would you tell my dearest friend?
Where do you provide your services? Do you
So
have
I'm
anything
online.
coming up?
Yeah, I'm online. I do something local. It's a little far for some people, and I totally get that. I'm working on doing a once a month on the last Saturday, a Zoom meeting where we'll do, talk about these kinds of things and do an exercise. And my intention is that they walk away with a new tool. I have a really powerful gift, the Confidence Catalyst, and it's at jericates.com/confidence. And there are 5 ways in there that you can forge a deeper connection with yourself, with your inner power. So very powerful. And as far as, information on the other thing, get on my mailing list with this Confidence Catalyst and you'll have all the information to connect with me.
Very nice. Thank you. Are there any upcoming events other than the one you mentioned at the end of the month each time that you're coming up?
No, I'm working on doing something on a smaller scale. I did a summit last year, and that was really powerful. And I thought about doing one, but I'm working on smaller events and more personal experience. So yeah, those things at the end of the month, they'll be on a Saturday. I'm looking forward to those to getting in some deep connection. Yeah, making a
Beautiful. We
difference.
need more of it. There's too
Hmm.
many disconnected, and I love and hate these at the same time because I think they both connect us and disconnect us. Because I believe most of our communication is behavioral. It's our body's language. That's what I listen to. I don't listen to, well, I do listen to the words, but it's more the other stuff that I hear.
Yeah.
Well,
Are they
I've,
congruent?
yes, exactly. And most often, I find they're not. But I am finding people that are, and that gives me safety and a community of
Hmm.
like-minded people, which I think we all need to find our people so that we're not alone because we're not. We're all connected. I believe that anyway. I think we're all love, especially if we're all just sitting in a nursery in a hospital. What's the difference between all those babies? There's nothing other than their ancestral epigenetic heritage, period. They're exactly what they're meant to be before they experience life. And now, at our age, we're remembering who we were at that time. Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, Jeri. I can't wait to talk to you again and maybe do something with you. I loved the conversation. I think you're making a huge difference in the world and changing one life at a time.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a guest
I
on the Anomaly
appreciate it.
Factor.
My
See?
pleasure. Thank you.
If you embrace your differences, you end up like Jeri, home to where she's meant to be all along with herself. Solidified the connection deeper within and around. Thanks, Jeri.
Thank you.